You may be wondering, Halloween, this is clearly not A, Alan Wake, or B, one of your favourite games. But it is C, something completely different. Or, like the review I did before. This is obviously a review of a game I've played. In this case, the LP of Call of Cthulhu. The actual game itself is what I'll be talking about first, and then I'll be going into roughly the LP review. So I'm just going to start. General gist of it, I found Call of Cthulhu in a game store near me, a local game store. And it looked interesting, so I played through it, and then when the LPs and everything came around, I decided to go through it again. I'm gonna start basically with the story and sort of setting of the game. I think that's something the game did really, really well. You can't go wrong with the actual setting and the story of the game. It's Call of Cthulhu. It's Lovecraftian horror. It's sort of horror at its finest, I personally think, where it's the nightmares of the night, the stuff you don't see, the stuff beyond the reach of your imagination, that kind of thing, and they can go really crazy on what stuff looks like. And you start off with Jack Walters, this awesome detective who's been called to a cult thing. They wanted him, and you've got to break into a house and find out what's going on. There's madness and crazy runes and writings and strange pictures all over the walls, and I think that's absolutely great. Just walking into that, it just sets the scene perfectly. You've suddenly got this, you're suddenly in this otherworldly sort of monster tale already, and you've got these strange things going on. You've got people committing suicide on you, and you think, whoa, that's really weird, you know? Like, that is just super strange, and we haven't even got anywhere yet. I mean, what's going on? And we get from there, and this fantastic intro, and then suddenly Jack finds that utter monstrosity thing in the basement, and you're thinking, whoa, okay, now we've gone into the realms of gone from pretty weird to, well, like otherworldly technologies and portals to other dimensions and monsters coming out of it, and you think, wow, okay, this is completely different from anything I've ever played before. I mean, I've been playing Silent Hill, Resident Evil, various horror games for years, Alone in the Dark, that kind of thing, but nothing came close to what I saw in this already, and this has only been 20 minutes. I think, wow, okay, I'm intrigued and creeped out by this. This is good, this is a good start. I mean, the actual setting, 1920s, 1930s, I think it is, isn't it? America, in a little rural sort of town, a fishing port, is a really sort of interesting setting that I don't think many games have ever used, for starters, and sort of just provides something a bit different. It isn't modern day, but it's not so far in the past that there's no guns, or there's no interesting weapons, or there's no technology. We still got that, and I think that's a little bit important for the sort of setting. You can sort of really get into it. And of course you get that famous boat, the bus ride that comes straight in, and you're thinking, wow, okay, we've got crazy, weirdo-sounding bus driver, and we've suddenly been dumped in this port town. It's going to get interesting from here. And that's the sort of initial setup of the game, and you've got this now ahead of you, and you're suddenly intrigued, I think. I think the game really does a good job at pulling you into it in the first half an hour. Instead of some games you think, oh, well, this tutorial, they're telling me about everything I don't need to know, I don't really care, I can't relate to the character. Already we can relate to Jack who's seen some strange stuff, and now he's had this mental breakdown. I need to discover what's happened. Why did he have this breakdown? What was up with the intro at the beginning where he hung himself? I need to know. And I think this really sort of sets the scene of the game and really brings you, the player, into Jack's boots, and you want to find out for his sake, not just your own. Just to sate your own curiosity. And I think that was really well done by the developers there. Alright, so the setting's there, that's good, and I'm going to move quickly onto the graphics. Again, I apologise for crazy review rambling, like horrible and organised. I mean, most people type this up and go blah 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 blah, I'm typing up an amazing review, look how good and awesome it is, and I just some crazy old British man just spouting garbage. But my garbage I shall continue with. Right, as before, I'm not grading the graphics on how they obviously look today, I'm grading it more on the aesthetics. How did it look? Did it fit what it was trying to do? Did the graphics do the setting and the vision of the developers justice, I suppose, is the right word we're looking for. And I'd say yes. I think the game is a little bit rough around the edges, like some of the way it looks can be a bit drab, I think. But what they did get right, they got the... Considering they have to work, they're trying to describe and develop unimaginable horrors. Lovecraft basically described them as indescribable monstrosities. They did a pretty good job, I feel. You know, it's not particularly easy to do stuff like that. And you pulled off scary-looking fish monsters, scary villages that look really, really bizarre, and all sorts of eldritch abominations that are coming into it. And you've got Dagon, you've got Hydra, and this horrible, gigantic fish titties. And that's just not nice. That really isn't nice, but that's the entire point. And the character models and the actual locations do look pretty decent. I think Innsmouth itself has a really creepy vibe. I think they got that down to a T. I thought that was a really good plan. the way they set it out. The only thing I'm not too keen on with the actual sort of well, not the controls as such. What's the word? The way you navigated the town was a bit odd. Like, it was a bit disjointed, I guess. The town didn't feel very big. I think that's the only thing it doesn't really have going for it. And of course, all the locked doors, which are necessary, unfortunately, but do make you feel a little bit restricted. I don't feel that this game is let me go where I want to go. But that's not necessarily probably what they're going for, but it does feel a little, I suppose, claustrophobic in that sense. I feel very directed. But on the flip side of that, it lets them sort of direct what I see. They tell me, you're going to see these horrors at this point because we're directing you this way. I think that did them a favour. All other aesthetics, I suppose, would be something like the sanity effects, which some people, I know we discussed this on Twitter today, some people makes them very, very ill, which is probably why they're not going to be watching this but listening to it, so there we go. The poor lady gets very ill, but there we go. The actual sanity effects are very sort of swingy, wavy, dizzy making, and I don't think they were done very well at all. I don't think that was a very good idea. I think more Eternal Darkness sanity than Call of Cthulhu sanity, because all it feels like is Jack suddenly got really dizzy and got a massive case of vertigo, instead of Jack is going crazy. His vision's going in and out, his heartbeat is going, the vision's going, it's going fuzzy, it's going blurry. I'm not a massive fan of denying the player, denying the player's screen and HUD. In this case, you don't actually have a HUD, but in this you do have a screen, and I don't think denying what you can see is a particularly good idea. In some scenes it adds to the tension, in others it makes it a bit annoying. So I can see what they were trying to do, but objectively, I don't think it was a very good idea at the end of the day. I think they could have done something a bit different. The hyperventilating was good, like the actual sound they did with that was good. Like the way it mixed with the visual effects was kind of neat. But the actual in and out dizziness, swaying to the side, just makes a lot of people feel ill. And while it doesn't make me feel ill, it does make me feel a bit like, wasn't too keen. Overall, though, I think aesthetically it does its job. It brings across you are in an impossible situation, in a horrible, horrible place. Eldritch abominations are there. You're in stuff you never meant to see. I think they got that down perfectly. With a few effects I didn't agree with. So I'd say the aesthetics are pretty decent. And then we come to the gameplay, which I think, unfortunately, Call of Cthulhu doesn't do amazingly well. The controls are okay. On the mouse and keyboard, it's standard first person. It's decent. For some reason, S instead of E is the look at key, and X is backwards, which is really bizarre. Every time you try and run away from a monster, you go, "It's a monster." I know, Jack. I know it's a monster. You don't need to tell me. I see it's a monster, and it's clawing off your face. Go figure. So the whole S to look thing. I mean, I could have rebinded it. I mean, I'm basically picking a hole for no good reason there. That's a bit unfair, I think. But the controls were standard and okay, and they can be changed, so I don't need to really whine about them. The shooting mechanics, with no HUD, you only have to rely on the iron sights. It's reasonably decent. It lets me compulsively reload, which I do like. But the game was, I have to be honest, much, much better without a gun. I think they should have kept weapons to a minimum, and instead, unfortunately, do feel a bit like a one-man army late game, especially when you pick up the Yithian lightning cannon and just go around torching fishy dudes. It's the outside! Then it's just like, yeah. I might be the outsider, but you're now cooked fish, and I'm going to eat you. Tasty fish. So yeah, I think the whole one-man army thing kind of nukes the horror slightly towards the end. Everything up to picking up a gun is super spooky, and you feel so tense because you can't defend yourself. The whole chase scene through the inn is absolutely amazing. It does such a good job at you're feeling so helpless, and it's so rare to feel that in a game, like a more modern game like that. Amnesia and Penumbra, another example. Penumbra, Black Plague, Penumbra Overture. I just beat the damn dogs. Oh no, it's an evil dog. Have some meat. Delicious. Sorry, dog. You're now my bitch. Dog, bitch. Yeah, anybody? Brrr. Sorry. Anyway, a lot of the gameplay segments there were fantastic. But the whole gunplay of the game wasn't particularly well done. It was okay, mediocre, sort of, mediocre, okay. We're into that sort of territory. Gameplay-wise, for all the other sections, barring the main bit, which is the shooting, obviously, is pretty decent. The exploring is fun, like I said, if a bit directed, but I can see why they did that. Mainly so they can show you the scares and show you the sights they want you to see, which is good. Otherwise, you end up stuff with fear, where you're supposed to be looking in one direction. I end up looking at the floor at a mouse or something, and it goes boo, and I miss it. So there. And other than that, I think, like I said, I think the gameplay was okay. I don't think it was amazing by any stretch. I don't think the actual gameplay is where the game sells itself. It's more what you're seeing than what you're doing, I think, is the main important part of Call of Cthulhu. I think that's almost like the tagline for the game. You see crazy shit, but you're not going to have an awful lot of fun doing it. The stealth stuff is pretty tacked on and annoying. I'm never a massive fan of stealth, and in that game it's very slow and unforgiving and irritating. It's got decent amount of save points. I'm okay with that. That's pretty reasonable. No problem there. Like I said, the shooting was a bit eh. The moving around the town was okay, but it was, I'd say, average to slightly above average in terms of gameplay in that front. But where it really sells itself is what you see and what it shows you. And that is fantastic. That's more aesthetics, obviously, than gameplay, but it really is good when it comes to that. Where the actual gameplay sort of is okay, but nothing I'd write home about. I'd like to think that's a fair judgment on that one. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the game, really, but I have to be honest here, and I don't think that's where it sort of excels. Where it does excel is being really, really, really creepy. I mean, this isn't more, again, less of a gameplay thing, more of aesthetics. The game is pretty damn creepy. It's really, really unnerving a lot of the time, and the stuff it shows you is sometimes you want to stop. You know, it's like, whew. And only Amnesia and Penumbra have really done that for me in a horror game. It's less. There's no jump scares as such in Call of Cthulhu. The only one I can think of is when the mother bursts through the door, tries to burst through the door, in Ramona's house, and that's a pretty cheap jump scare. But it's also a very obvious one, so most people probably don't bother them. But where, like I said, where it really excels is the whole creepiness factor. The whole suddenly the asylum scene, there's tentacles coming out the floor, like the weird voices you hear, the goddamn Shoggoth. I mean, come on, that's an absolutely fantastic scene. It really is. It's things like that, and that's it really for sort of what I've got to say about the gameplay. We'll move on to the pros. What I've really just covered actually for the main pro is the game is amazing at being creepy. The game takes creepy and puts a really scary mask on it, and so you've got creepy, then creepy has a scary mask, and you're like, holy shit, creepy, that is a nasty mask you're wearing. It goes, and then you get really unnerved and sort of sit downstairs with a baseball bat, expecting Cthulhu to burst through your door.
Okay,
he's not a nice man. Anyway, so yeah, and that's where it really, really excels. I think that's an absolutely perfect way of doing a horror game. You don't need to rely on cheap jump scares. You spook the player out of a long period of time and build up a massive atmosphere. And that's great. That's the biggest pro the game has going for it. Other stuff, there's little things for more me. I liked the way it saved. It was nice and convenient. The checkpoints were decent. I liked the characters. I think the characters are all very interesting. I felt attached to them. I felt sorry for them when they died, or I wanted to feel like I helped them out. That kind of thing. Not quite sure about the fish people towards the end because I didn't really have the marshes. I didn't really have a lot to do with them. I felt whack at the time, which is a bit weird. I liked Hoover. Hoover was a jerk, and he was a fantastic jerk at that. But yeah, those are the main cons, the main pros even. Some of the cons I've already gone over. The controls are a bit odd, but that's a bit of a personal preference on my part. I'm a bit picky about that. The graphics sometimes look a bit shoddy, but not in a texture front, but more some of the aesthetics they use and the way the town looks does look a bit janky at times. But overall, they were pretty decent. The main con again is the gunplay isn't amazing. It's a bit wonky. The combat in general is a bit dodgy, and the game is a lot better when it's focusing more on spooking you out than it is on the combat. Which is pretty much, you can stick down the front of every single horror game box, I think. Don't worry about the combat, enjoy the scares. And that pretty much sums up Silent Hill in a nutshell as well. I think, again, there isn't that many cons to the game. It's a well done game. It played well. There's quite a few bugs on the PC version. I can't really rag on them too much for that because they I believe they went broke and they tried to port the PC version. There's only a couple of dudes porting the PC version, I believe. And as a port, it's acceptable. It's got graphics options of a sort. It's got resolution options basically, and that's as much as I can expect from a reasonable port, I suppose, these days. It did okay. Like I said, the bugs in it are annoying. There's a few crashes, especially on the PC version, that were irritating. And just to finish off, really, an overall verdict. Would I recommend this game if you haven't played it and only watched it? Yes, I would say it is well worth playing yourself. There's a lot of stuff that you don't appreciate when a horrible Englishman is yabbering on top of it. The game has a brilliant atmosphere that is well worth seeing and experiencing. There's nothing like it out there, barring Amnesia, and it is definitely worth a look. You will do yourself an injustice by not actually playing it. It's probably dirt cheap. It's on Steam. If you fancy a fantastic game to play through, it takes you about 10 to 12 hours probably to go through it. definitely worth it. I'd give it a thumbs up. You know, that it is brilliant, and even if you see me play it, it's worth going through. On the negatives, I noted, I wouldn't say there would be a problem enough to put anyone off playing the game. Not at all. Definitely worth a go. I think that's pretty much it for the actual game. There's not a lot much more to say about it, except I've pretty much covered everything, I think. Play it, please. It is really, really good. It's another game that I've LP'd that is definitely worth a go yourself. Not all of the games I'm reviewing I'll be saying that for, I promise. But please, feel free to experience it. It is very, very good. That's enough of my random rambling about the actual game. I'm going to go quickly into my LP of it. Before I start, there's something I did like to do. There's a lot of footage I recorded that never got used. The game was a real crap bag when I was trying to record. A lot of the time it would either crash, or something would go horribly wrong, or the entire section would go tits up, and I couldn't actually show it. So some of them went into the outtakes that you saw. A lot of them went straight into the bin. The actual editing and recording of the game was a real ass. I had a lot of the time where Fraps was playing me up. And even the video compression I was using, it wouldn't play ball. Like, the sound would be wrong, the frames per second would come out terribly, it'd be really jerky. My hard drive died. This game wanted my PC dead. It just wasn't gonna have it. I was like, game, please, can I actually play you today? And it says, yes. And I'm like, oh really? No. No. So the second I start recording, the frames would drop to nothing, which was really frustrating. But I managed to get around in the end. I beat you son of a bitch. Yeah. And I have played this game fairly recently. You know, I plugged it in and had a look. So yeah, as that, it still runs and is still a buggy bastard. Screw you, game. Screw you. On to the actual LP. I think it was one of the better ones that came out. Actually, I think it was certainly a massive improvement on Alice. I had the confidence there, I think, that I didn't have with Alice. With Alice, I was a bit new at it. Obviously, I was a bit nervous. Not everything came out how I wanted to say it. I was a bit worried about re-recording stuff. I was a bit worried about not re-recording stuff. Whereas Call of Cthulhu, I felt I could just go for it. I felt I could just enjoy myself and record. Of course, like I said, I edited all the bollocks out where I screwed up or didn't say. I said some stupid stuff, or I didn't feel it went very well. But generally, I think it was smooth. It came out decently, and I think my commentary improved a lot from Alice. I think generally it was better. Not a lot to say here, yeah, but I think it did come out a lot better. I think there's some areas I can still improve on, which I think, again, going forward, I think were better in later LPs. I still think on my feet a bit better now than I did there. I can still talk about... I can make up garbage a lot better now, I think, just randomly talking about stuff. But overall, I think the game gave me a lot to work with. It was a very fun, very exciting, interesting game that is very easy to LP. The game gives you a lot of material that I could use. I could have a lot of fun with the characters, I could have a lot of fun with the outsiders, the fish people, the cute little Ramona girl, and, you know, there's a lot of stuff you could really work on with an LP there. And recording it was an absolute joy, and I think personally it showed in the LP. It came out really well. There are some things I'd like to repeat and do again, of course. Don't think the sound, again, came out very well. The sound for the first load of LPs wasn't amazing, and I'd love to do them again, and... Well, I'd love to do them again, but I wouldn't. I like the content as it is, but I'd like the sound to be better, if that makes sense. That'd be better. But yeah, I think... Oh, yes. I do think it went well. I hate to toot my own horn, but I'm very proud of the LP. I'm even more proud of that one, definitely, than Alice. Well, Alice was my first, and it always has like a soft spot in my heart. I think Call of Cthulhu was just such a good game and a good LP that came out of it. And I really enjoyed the player interaction, or the viewer interaction, sorry, that came through it. I was talking to people in the comments, you know, we went through some stuff, what can we do next? Like, what do you want to see? What can we do to make this better? And of course, I think I got my 200 subscribers video back in that one. I was really excited. I was like, yeah, 200 subs, woo! I was very, very thrilled about that. And genuinely, it was just a wonderful, wonderful LP, and I was really proud of it. And I hope that showed, and I hope you enjoyed it. To finish off, overall, I don't give a score to a game. I don't like scores, because scores are worthless, quite frankly. Scores don't tell you anything about it. How someone expresses how they feel about a game, I think, sells the game to a person a lot more. But, again, if I had to sort of give a proper ending verdict on the overall game, like I did, like I said to you before, it is a game worth playing, and I would say it is a way above average to an excellent game that everybody should give a go. And that's what I've got to say on Call of Cthulhu, Dark Corners of the Earth. I hope you enjoyed this, again, horribly rambly review. But I did have a crib sheet here that people recommended last time. I've tried to stick to it a bit more. I am going to repeat myself because that's the sort of the way I go. Because I make stuff up on the spot. Please, again, let me know what you think of the review, what you think of the game, what you think of the LP in general. I'd love to hear your comments, especially those who were there at the time. If any of you are still here, that'd be great. And yeah, that's it. I'll be doing another review tomorrow, probably, while I'm getting Alan Wake sorted still, because it's going to take a bit of time to get sorted. Please don't go into sleep mode on my PC, that'd be great. So I'm going to be doing a review of another game tomorrow, which isn't an LP, but just one of my games I do enjoy. Again, sorry, I didn't really have time to do a proper full edit of the background scenes. I'm just going to be putting footage of the LP in the background. I know you guys wanted to, when this happens, when I'm talking about this, please put this in here. But unfortunately, by the time I get home from work, and I honestly don't have time to sort that out. Maybe if I did a review on a weekend, I could probably really do a proper full edit. I think I'll have to try and make an effort to do that. But do forgive me the rather shoddiness of the footage. I'm very sorry about that. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. If you stuck out 20 more minutes of my garbage, thank you very much. And I'll do another review tomorrow, and then hopefully Alan Wake will almost be ready. So, until then, thank you very much, guys. Bye.